I want you to imagine it's 1972 and you respond to an ad in the newspaper that says Yale University is conducting a study on learning. And you show up to this red brick building, and up on the second floor you run into this guy in a lab coat. You get introduced to another person, and they tell you that they're conducting an experiment on the effects of punishment on learning. They then walk you into a room. The other person that you're there with is there to be the learner. They tell you that your role is assigned to be the teacher. They put this other person in a room right next to yours, and you're sat in front of this large box that is an electrical shock device. And they tell you that every time this person gets a question wrong on a test, you're supposed to shock them. And with every wrong answer, you're supposed to increase the voltage and continue increasing and increasing and increasing that voltage all the way up to 450 volts, and all the way at the end where it says XXX, danger, severe shock. In about 45 minutes, you'll be talked into committing murder. Dr. Stanley Milgram put this experiment together because his parents were Jewish and fled the Nazis in World War II. And as he's watching these trials on television of these war criminals, all of them being asked, why did you do this? Why did you commit these atrocities on these people? This resounding answer that came back from all of them was, I was following orders, or I was doing what I was told to do. So he put this experiment together to see if people would just blindly follow orders and throw everything out the window when it comes to what we know pretty well is how to be a good person. We all know we don't kill people. We're not murderers. So we put this experiment together. And before the experiment started, a bunch of psychologists and psychiatrists got together. Their job was to predict how many people would go all the way. How many people are going to go to 450 volts? How many people are going to do it? So their prediction was 0.7 to 0.9%. And they said you have to be a psychopath to go all the way through. You have to be sadistic. And in reality, 67% of people thought that they were shocking another person in the room, a person in the next room, to death. 67% of people firmly believed that they were shocking a person in the next room to death. The person would scream, the person would beg to stop, the person would say they don't want to do it anymore, to let them out of the room. The person would say they have heart problems. And about 2/3 of the way through the experiment, at around 300 volts, the person would completely stop making sound. They would stop answering the questions on this quiz that's being asked back and forth to administer these shocks. There was no sound and no response from the next room. And the person in the lab coat insisted that they continue delivering the electrical shocks, even though the person was not responding whatsoever. 67% went all the way to 450 and XXX, danger, severe shock on that board. And in reality, even more scary, 100% of people went up to 200 volts, which is enough to kill you. So during the Milgram experiment, what techniques did they use? What was the secret persuasion technique? Were there any scripts? Was there some secret hypnotist in the back room with these secret persuasion techniques that you can read on Amazon books and on these online articles and stuff? There was none. So with zero little techniques and tactics, they made a person into a murderer in under an hour. And I get people that come and want to train with me who just want those little things, and they say sales is hard. So the Milgram experiment worked extremely well when it comes to persuasion and influence. on making somebody completely toss aside everything that they know and believe to be true about their own self, about I won't kill people, I'm not a murderer, I'm a good person. It did away with all of that without using a single trick, tactic. There was no hypnosis, nothing else. The only thing the Milgram experiment needed to get that extreme level of compliance was the fate model. They used focus, authority, tribe, and emotion. So we know that novelty generates focus, something that's new and something that's different. So this person responding to the ad is responding to an ad they've never responded to, going to a building they've never been in, meeting with two people they've never met, in a room they've never been in, sat in front of a machine to shock another human being that they've never seen before, and now commencing in an experiment that they've never seen, heard of, or read about before. That's a ton of novelty. It's a ton of new stuff going on that generates a tremendous amount of focus. Next on the fate model is authority. The person in the lab coat served as that authority figure. They were composed, they were confident, and they were not just a perceived authority. They were on the university campus wearing this official looking lab coat. And there are even scientific studies that suggest we respond hyper compliantly, hyper obediently to people with lab coats on and people in medical doctor situations. So that was the A on the fate model. Next, we have tribe. So how do we get tribe in there with just a room with a couple of people in it? The experimenter, the person in the lab coat, behaved in such a way that every single other person must have done this, or they would not have this much confidence. They would not have this much ability to tell me what to do unless everyone else went along with it. So the tribe in this situation was in the past, wasn't there, didn't have to be present in the room, didn't have to be talked about. The tribe was assumed. So good authority can make a person assume the involvement of the tribe. Finally, we have emotion. At the end of the day, the experiment capitalized on people's behavioral patterns, which we talked about with emotion. These behavioral patterns are listening to professors, listening to medical doctors, your teachers, your parents at school. This person in the lab coat fulfilled all of those roles and triggered this person's tribal DNA programmed ancestral response. So how powerful is the fate model? You see all these sales trainings and persuasion trainings that teach you how to change the upper part of the brain. They teach you how to just change somebody's ideas. The Milgram experiment used the fate model, and look what happened. This person disregarded everything and complied all the way to the end with 67% success rate and 100% success rate. The fate model overrode our instincts of who we are as human beings and who we are as a society. So here are the 4 levels that you can influence another person at. Top level, the least effective of this little pyramid here, is electrical. That means I can change your thoughts and ideas. The next is chemical, below that. Chemical means I'm affecting some sort of emotional change in you, some neurotransmitters, some hormone changes that are going on in your brain. Next is your life patterns. I know that you're running a script, or I know you are about to do something. I know you're expecting something to happen, and I can break from that. Or if I can remind you of a situation where you listen to your teachers or parents, just like in the Milgram experiment. Those are life patterns that someone's taking advantage of. That's the 3rd level of influence. The 4th and most powerful level of influence is genetics. What did our ancestors pass down to us? That's what the fate model is, and that's why it works so incredibly well in the Milgram experiment. So what is authority? A lot of people might be saying, well, I'm 18, I don't have authority, or I'm an employee, or I work for a boss, or I'm not in a position where I'm in charge of a lot of people. Or you might be saying, I'm already a CEO, I'm already a leader, I'm already this manager at a big company, I've got 100 people working for me. That is not authority. So I want you to know that when it comes to triggering the authority our ancestors responded to and that modern day humans will respond to equally, we're triggering the perception of authority. Not just authority, like a police officer or a judge. We're making the person perceive the presence of authority. Here are the 5 traits that actually make up authority. They are confidence, discipline, leadership, gratitude, and enjoyment. In that order. Confidence is your reputation with yourself, and confidence is all about permission. We're going to get into this. I'm going to rapidly transform your confidence in a few modules. Next is discipline. The definition of discipline is your ability to place the needs of your future self ahead of your own. Next is leadership. Just the definition of leadership is the ability to generate followers or followership just through your behavior alone. Not through what you say, not your rank or your titles. Does your behavior make people want to follow your example? Next, we have gratitude. This is the ability to just be grateful for small things and to actually zoom out and look at a big picture or a bigger perspective and be grateful for things in your life on a small scale and a large scale. Can you be doing that in your everyday life? Gratitude is something that people can see from across an airport or across a restaurant. You can spot somebody. If you and I were sitting together right now at a restaurant and I asked you to find somebody who is very grateful in their life, you could find them with no training because we tend to see those things in other people. And finally, we have enjoyment here. And why would enjoyment be part of an authority system or one of these 5 traits of authority? Enjoyment, hands down, is the most magnetic human trait. It's the one quality we can have. It's the one mental state we can be in that draws other people into us. It's going to be the state that draws everybody into you. Just being in enjoyment, being in a good mood. We're going to unpack these in just a second. But I know somebody might be saying, well, I'm just a kid, or I'm just a 19-year-old or an 18-year-old. How can I actually have authority? Is it possible that a younger person can have authority over an older person? Is it possible the person who's in charge is different than the leader? And it absolutely is. If you've ever watched Catch Me If You Can, you've seen a perfect example of Frank Abagnale, who I think was 17 or 18 at the time, who had unstoppable levels of confidence. And he got away with literally anything that he wanted to do. He had an unfair advantage that other people did not enjoy. And if you look at that movie, just the whole movie of Catch Me If You Can, where Leonardo DiCaprio depicts Frank Abagnale, you can see this perfect, picture-perfect example of confidence and discipline and leadership and gratitude and enjoyment. He was always in enjoyment, but you saw that all of those qualities were there. The leadership and the gratitude, you can see it on his face throughout the movie. Those are the qualities of authority, and that's why people instinctively, they didn't make a decision, they instinctively made a choice without their awareness to follow him, because that's hardwired into our DNA. That's one of those things on the fate model that our ancestors passed down to us. Attached to this module, you're going to find one of the most profound things I have ever created in my entire life, and this is called the Hughes Authority Inventory. This is the exact copy of the inventory that I give to intelligence operatives to instantly identify where their strong points are and where their weak points are when it comes to all the traits of authority. This alone has the potential to drastically change your life and the results you're getting from the world around you. So the fate model gives us a perfect picture of what works inside of a mammalian brain. I can use the fate model to develop a dog training program because it works on mammals. But if I can influence the mammalian brain, how do I simultaneously influence the human brain? The fate model is only the beginning though. I spent 10,000 hours watching interrogation videos to come up with what I'm about to show you. This is the 6-axis model, and it gives you the perfect master key to influence any person at any time, and it works in every situation where influence or persuasion is in play. So let's go to the next module right now.